All right. Well, we're just past 11 Pacific time, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, as you know, today's topic is how to successfully shift your marketing strategy during the current economic conditions. Because let's face it, today is definitely not the same economic conditions as it was a few months ago and at this time last year. So, we need to definitely shift what we're doing, especially when it comes to marketing with our customers. Especially, as an enterprise company, it's very, very important that we shift what we're doing to better connect with our customers. So, my name is Arun Srinivasan. I am an employee here at Zoho on the enterprise team, and I specialize really in helping enterprise companies successfully market to their customers. And I do that specifically in Zoho, but as part of what we're doing right now during this whole economic crisis, we really want to deliver some really valuable content to our community. So, with that, let's go ahead and get started. Today's agenda. So first, we're going to start out with some marketing tactics that you might have been doing in the past, or you might even be doing now, that we probably need to drop. And then we'll move past that, and we'll move into some new tactics that you should adopt. Do you like the little rhyme I have there? And then once we go through all of the tactics and the strategies, I want to go through how we at Zoho actually adapted to the current crisis. And I'll walk you through exactly what we did, the things that we rolled out. And then finally, if we have time, I'll finish with some questions that you guys are welcome to chat in the questions box. Now, full disclosure, I am full screen on my monitor, so I will not be able to see the questions right away. But I will come back to them at the end. And again, as I mentioned before we started, if you have some questions, feel free to chat them in the chat box. And if I don't get to them here on this webinar, I will respond to you directly via email. Okay? So let's get going. So let's look at the current reality, okay? Right now, as I mentioned as we started, it's just not the same as it was yesterday, right? A lot of your customers are going to be reluctant to spend money. And obviously that puts you in a very difficult position. And you yourself may actually be reluctant to spend money. Because we're all right now in save mode because sales are down, right? People are not spending money. We're worried about our jobs. We're worried about the state of our company. So right now, really businesses are focused on, well, let's just stay afloat. And they're less focused on what could have previously been their focus, which is hypergrowth, right? We all want to grow, but the reality is it's very difficult right now with the current economic conditions. And if we really look at the numbers, we can see in this graph here, in 2008, we see this recession and we see where the jobless claims were. And we can definitely see an increase in the jobless claims. And then now look at the claims in the last 3 weeks. We're at 17 million. And actually, this graphic I pulled over a week ago. So these are even more. But we can see a drastic shift in what's going on with the economy. And similarly, we know that the current crisis is industry agnostic, right? It's hurting many industries. So whatever industry your specific company is in, I'm sure you're probably affected. And if not, you would probably not even be here today. But it's affecting across a lot of different industries and a lot of different categories within companies themselves. I mean, if we look at this chart, we see specifically revenue with a lot of black circles, meaning that there's a pretty severe impact. So we have to adapt to the current reality. So by adapting, we can't expect our usual marketing efforts to work. And what do I mean by that? Well, we have to shift away from marketing tactics that we would have used before, right? So frequently, and this is very common, we want to focus on growth, right? We want to help our customers grow their business because when they grow their business, it helps us grow our business, right? But we actually have to shift away from that. And I'll get into why we have to shift away from growth-focused content in a minute. We also want to shift away from direct response marketing geared towards sales now, right? So direct response marketing, just to summarize, is when we send out marketing content and it requires a certain call to action, right? And frequently, direct response marketing campaigns can be highly profitable because we remove all the distractions from your customers seeing marketing material and making a purchase decision. However, now, direct response marketing, we have to shift away from because we're not going to see the ROI on those efforts. And then lastly, we really need to get away from sort of business as usual campaigns for our customers, because the truth is it's not business as usual right now, right? Business has changed quite a bit. So we need to acknowledge that and shift away from those and show our customers that we're shifting with the times and we're catering our marketing and our strategies and our business to better serve them. So how do we do that? Well, we have to shift our focus. And when I say shift your focus, you have to shift towards the top of your funnel, right? So normally in marketing, we're used to being this, marketing's function is to show people that we're this bright, beautiful flower and you should come buy our stuff because we look so amazing, right? But we actually have to shift towards the roots of our company. What is making us stable? And we're not going to be the big bright flower right now because it just doesn't fit in the current economic conditions, right? So our marketing actually has to better root our company for marketing efforts in the future and for growth in the future, right? So what we'll do is we'll shift our focus to the top of our funnel, our lead gen efforts and our branding. And by doing this, we'll position our company to grow a lot faster once sort of the smoke clears from this current economic crisis, right? And we do that by being supportive, by being educational, by teaching our customers, and by ourselves being resilient. And one of you see this picture of a hose here. That was the best picture I could find of a hose, illustrating what I want to tell you about, which is, essentially right now, as a business, your deal flow is not going to be the same as before, right? You can fill the top of your funnel, but it's going to be really hard to get the same volume of leads to matriculate through your funnel and result in sales or closed deals or closed services, right? But what we can do is imagine this hose, the spigot, where we're kind of closing the end, but we're still filling it with water. So you're getting this big bubble of water in the hose, but it's not just being released. However, when the sort of smoke clears from the current crisis and we're able to actually matriculate business through our sales funnel, we'll see that flow come a lot faster because we've built up a huge volume of leads and brand support and brand recognition on the top of our funnel. And that brand recognition is sort of that water that's accumulating in the hose, waiting to be released. So we do that by doing all of these things that I'm mentioning here. And we want our customers to view us as a beacon of hope and feel supported by us right now, right? Although we can't market them directly to a sale, or we don't want to market them directly to a sale, we still want to market to them, and we want to show them that we are a leader in their community and that they can feel supported by us. And a big way that we can do that is, of course, by being authentic with your customers. And being authentic is obviously something that we should always be doing, but now more than ever, it's paramount. So what kind of marketing can we specifically do right now? Okay, well, this is where we get into the meat of today. So number one, you want to position your company as an empathetic leader. And you see this picture of a woman, listening. And that's the biggest thing. We need to listen to our customers. And our community right now is looking for leadership. So we want to position ourselves as a leader in our business community. And we can do that by giving out free, high-value content, right? So we use all of our marketing channels, and we want to deliver content that is supporting our customers. And we can do that by giving away lead magnets, which could be like reports or checklists or anything that basically will give your customers a quick win. And of course, when you're doing that, you can collect lead information on your end. We want to do that by delivering free training and webinars focused purely on content, and this is a big one with no immediate sales CTA. Right, a lot of webinars generally in the industry, especially marketing webinars, we tend to deliver content, and at the end we have a sales CTA. But right now we don't want to tarnish the content that we have at the front end by having poor sales on the back end, because right now a lot of your customers are not looking for a big sale at the end of a webinar. They just want to feel supported. So you want to be, when you're positioning yourself as an empathetic leader, you show them that you understand what they're going through right now. And that's huge. And it's going to play big dividends in the future. And so what are the results when you do that? Okay, well, first of all, your brand awareness will increase, right? Because people like to share brands that they love and that they assimilate with, right? You're going to have higher potential for viral content. And what do I mean by that? So if you're putting out, let's just say, video content that is on the nose for what's going on right now, and it resounds with people and it's not selling anything, you have a much higher potential for that content to be shared and thus go viral. Your brand perception will increase. So I mentioned awareness, that's basically the amount of people. And then those people will actually think higher of you, which is the perception. And under that sort of umbrella, you'll have increased trust with your own customers. You'll get more leads because you're putting out more valuable content out there. And even if you're not collecting the email addresses of your leads, you'll have an increased volume of remarketing audiences, right? So people who are engaging with your content, hopefully if you're posting content on social media, you can actually leverage those people who are engaging for remarketing purposes. Okay, number 2, give your current customers more value and reassurance. And I really like this little picture of this girl hugging this little boy. It's very cute, I thought, and very warm. And that's the kind of hug that we want to give to our customers, right? So we want to show them how to leverage, so you want to show your customers how to leverage your product that they're probably already paying for to better survive. How can they better make use of your product to make it through the crisis? And we want to show our current customers, again, how we are shifting our focus to survive, right? Because as a customer, they are privy to we want to make them feel privy to sort of inside information. What are we doing? And how can we tell them what we're doing and give them reassurance? Because, hey, we're going through the same thing you are, right? We as a company are going through the same thing as our customers are going. And so we need to help our customers we need to help ourselves by helping our customers. And so they need this reassurance that, you're shifting your focus, and they should also shift their focus and follow in suit. And lastly, what else can you do for your customers? Well, you offer them tools and services that will help them in their current climate. And this is a fine line. You can you may have tools that you sell, and like I said, it's okay to have things that you sell and services that you sell, and people should be willing to pay for those. And you want to have those offers on the table, but you just want to make them available and show them how to use these tools and services, and you may actually see an increase in your sales. So what are the results? Well, first of all, number 1, we want to stop the bleeding, and by doing this, you will lower attrition. So we want to make sure that customers aren't, leaving your service or leaving your product, and we do that by showing them how to better leverage your product, right? Secondly, when you have customers that really respond to your message, they feel more indoctrinated to your brand, and they become huge fans and referral sources, right? And, an example of this would be like, personally for me, I am an Apple user through and through, and I have a Mac, I have an iPhone, and I'm totally indoctrinated by Apple. And when somebody comes to me with another type of computer, I have a list of 10 reasons why I like a Mac. And it's not necessarily that a Mac or an iPhone is better. In fact, I always read about how Androids are better. But it's just that I have been indoctrinated into their brand, and a part of my identity is really with Apple. And I could say the same about Nike shoes, right? And then lastly, when you give your current customers more value and reassurance, you really are increasing your revenue opportunity down the road, because these customers are going to be more willing to spend money with you. An example is right now I do a streaming Instagram live sort of yoga class, and it's a free class, but it's so valuable to me that now I find myself donating more money than I would pay normally for yoga for this class, because I appreciate what's going on. I appreciate the value that I'm getting. So definitely a higher revenue opportunity down the road. Okay, number 3, we want to increase our content volume from what we were doing before. We want to increase our content volume across all platforms. And, one of the reasons is, right now when there's any uncertainty sort of in the air, people become a bit panicked, right? I mean, who wouldn't be? Your business is probably losing some money. You're looking for answers, and things are very uncertain right now. So there's some panic. So the best way that we can sort of leverage this panic and serve our customers better is by leaning into it. And what I mean is that when people are panicked, they're really looking for a lot of content. They're looking for somebody to answer their questions, they're looking for somebody to make them feel better. And by posting more content, you're actually satiating an appetite that your audience has right now, right? Because your audience now has an increased appetite for reassurance. They have an increased appetite for how can I use the things I currently have, and how can I leverage them better. A lot of people have a little bit more time on their hands now because there's not as many things to do. So let's satiate the appetite of our audience by posting more things. And we want to focus on engagement of the content, right? So normally we might focus on, well, how does that content directly produce a sale? Now we're, again, shifting our focus, as I mentioned earlier, to the top of the funnel. So the engagement metrics we'd want to pay attention to are, what's the traffic look like? How many video views are we getting? How many people are liking the videos that we post, or the content that we post? Is our content being shared across multiple platforms? Are people commenting, and is there a discussion around this content? These are all types of engagement that we want to focus on because, again, we can leverage this type of engagement down the road. So what are the results? Well, I kind of talked about that just now. We build up a captive audience that's ready to use or buy your service or product when the smoke clears, right? So we're just building our brand. We're really paying attention to the top of the funnel, getting people aware of us by posting a lot of content. And when people are ready to actually spend money and to reshift their focus onto growth, you'll be top of mind. And by helping them survive and providing support right now, you've actually expanded your own market. And what I mean by that is, if you help people in your community and would-be customers survive the current crisis, well, now they're potential customers that have not closed down that are now potentially going to buy your product or service, right? So you've expanded the market by helping these people survive. Okay, number 4. So I mentioned about increasing your content volume, but we also want to make sure we increase our content diversity. So our content doesn't have to be purely business focused, right? We want to increase the diversity and post things like useful life content, because what that does is it humanizes your brand. So it doesn't have to be, if I'm Zoho as a software as a service company, everything I post does not have to be around the software industry. It can be things like, hey, I noticed a useful hack to be more productive at home during when I'm working from home, right? And it doesn't have to necessarily relate to our product offering, but it has to be useful. And by doing that, you really start to give your customers an air of authenticity, right? And that's why I put this bullet number 3, be as authentic as possible. Sometimes, if you're a smaller company or a bigger company, you may not always have a super positive day, but be authentic. Tell people, you know what? Today this was a tough week for our company, but we're finishing strong and we're entering the weekend on a high note. And our employees have had a great week, and we're ready for some R&R and to start next week as great as possible. And as part of being authentic and part of this sort of content diversity, add content that's light and humorous. It doesn't always have to be all serious, right? And I have a couple of examples of that on the next slide, which I'll show you. But then lastly, you also want to post content on the state of your company and how you're coping with the current market landscape. And that's, again, offering that reassurance. And it's not, of course, content that's going to translate directly into a sale or anything like that, but it's a brand builder and it's a perception builder, right? And that's what we're focusing on right now. So I mentioned, content that's sort of not directly related to sale. And I pulled 3 examples that I kind of like. So we see Coca-Cola, and they have a big billboard in Times Square. I think that's Times Square. Or it might be Tokyo. I'm not actually sure. But anyways, it says, staying apart is the best way to stay united. And they have the Coca-Cola written out with spacing. And think about, that is a pretty expensive marketing buy, and the location of that is, but and it doesn't necessarily say anything about the product of Coca-Cola other than the fact that they are on the nose with what's going on right now. And we look at Burger King here. They added the little stay over home, and they crossed out home of the Whopper for home of the Whopper. Very clever. And even McDonald's, they separated their arches to show that, hey, we know what's going on. We're acknowledging it, and we're doing something cute. and somebody like me will see this and share it on a webinar. So it's very clever. All three of them are probably accomplishing what they set out to do. It doesn't necessarily translate directly into a sale, but it certainly translates into positive brand perception. So what are the results when you do this type of content diversity? Well, you're looked at as a brand who gets it, right? People love brands who get it, who don't seem like they're out of touch with reality. And by doing this, you are perceived as a brand who gets it, and your content has a better chance of going viral, right? And as I mentioned before, your audience begins to associate their identity with you. And that's the strongest sort of form of brand indoctrination. And that goes back to what I was mentioning before about Apple, about Nike, etc. Now, I personally am not a McDonald's or a Burger King eater, but I think what they did is very cute. And if I was, I would be further indoctrinated into into their brand, because they're doing something clever, but it's also current and it's also relevant, right? And by doing this, you increase audience trust by sharing both your vulnerabilities and the success of your business. And that goes back to the example I said before, where you can admit that, hey, it was a tough week, or, we certainly have experienced some of the downturn within our company, but we're putting our customers first, and we know that by serving you, we will serve ourselves better. And that's a great message, because it means that it's not ignoring the current conditions, and it's acknowledging them and showing your commitment to your customers, right? Okay, number 5. You want to leverage your product or service for future business. So how can we do that? So when I say leverage your product or service, I mean, you don't have to create anything new right now. There is a way that you can reposition your current product or services to better serve your community and your customers, right? So one way you can do that is consider offering a free version of your product or service. So maybe right now, customers have to pay right up front, and you don't have a free trial, but maybe you add a free trial version, or say, hey, try this out for a month, because right now we understand that cash flow can be an issue, but try it out. And that, you'll increase your lead flow dramatically. And again, you'll be building up that sort of water in the hose, that when the smoke clears and we can actually take the end off the hose and let the deals flow through, you'll see a lot faster deal flow. Now, you want to pay special attention to your lower end offers and product. And why is that? Well, again, it goes back to companies experiencing issues with cash flow, right? Cash in right now. And right now, your lower end products are probably going to be more appealing to the mass audience, right? Your higher end, more expensive services or product are going to be a little bit harder for people to say yes to right now. Another option is you can repackage your services or products to fit customers better during this time. So obviously we know, what are some realities of today? Well, people are working from home, so that changes things. People are not commuting as much. We also know that mobile engagement is actually down right now, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. So we know that there's very specific conditions right now, and what can you do with your products or services to better serve your community right now? An example would be restaurants, right? Restaurants that normally don't do delivery service have now repackaged their service and are offering delivery service, right? Because right now we can't have dine-in. So that's just a small example of how you can take what you currently offer and kind of repackage it to fit the current environment much better. And lastly, if you have if you have long-time customers, one option, and I know this is not an option for everybody, but you can offer a payment deferral. And we can look at some of the examples right now. There's things like rent and mortgage forbearance, where banks are offering people to not pay their mortgage for a little bit right now and adding it to the end of their term. One way you can work with your customers is work with them on a cash flow arrangement that just fits them better, and show them that you're there to support their needs, and that you believe that if they survive this and you help them survive this, that you'll both be better off in the long term. So what are the results of leveraging your product and your service for future business? Well, one is you build, obviously, goodwill, because it shows that you're again on the nose right now. You know what's going on, and you're willing to work with your community to help them survive. And then also, like if you give, for example, if you start giving free versions of your product or service, you give them a taste of what they can have when they're ready, right? So they have experienced, wow, I really like, I really like your service, or I really like your product. This seems like it will fit in my business really well. And then when the smoke starts to clear and and your free trial ends, then they may actually now say, well, you know what, I can't live without this. It's now I've seen it, I've tasted it, I need it. Secondly, you'll see an increase in referrals and references along with partnerships, because as people, again, more and more people start using your product and they appreciate you working with them, they'll start to recommend them to your friends, right? Hey, did you see what Zoho is doing? Because we're getting, they're opening up free trials for a new product, and you should really check it out because we're using it in our remote environment and it's working for us. And lastly, it's actually a qualification, right? By offering a free product, you get a lot of new leads that are coming in, trying it out, and it's a way to qualify your buyers and spend less money in the future on marketing because, well, they've already experienced your service and product. They know what your offer is. So, they've all of a sudden become warm customers, right? And we, of course, know 80% of your future profits come from actually just 20% of your existing customers. So your new business is typically not going to make up the majority of your revenues. Your majority of your revenues is coming from your existing customers who are using your product or subscription or service, and they are adding, more product or more of your service into what they already use as they grow, or as they, become more indoctrinated in your brand, or as you start to expand your services or products. So we really want to focus on getting people over that initial barrier of just adopting your product. Do anything you can right now to get people to start using your product. And then when the smoke clears, you'll see that those people will translate into buyers. Okay, so those are the 5 big tips I have for you today. But if you're running paid traffic right now, I have 2 quick bonus tips that I'd love to go through with you. Okay, so bonus tip number 1, or although this is overall tip number 6, is cross-network ad opportunities have increased. And what do I mean by that? So first of all, we know that since people have transitioned to work from home, internet use is up big time, right? We've heard that internet service providers are having trouble keeping up, and Netflix and YouTube has lowered the resolution of their videos to accommodate. But so we know that internet traffic is up. But what's actually happened is that ad traffic has shifted since COVID-19 became a pandemic. And so what do I mean by that? Well, ad traffic for things like Google Search and for the Google Shopping Network are actually down very significantly, right? But on the other end of the spectrum, the Google Display Network, which is basically banner ads and pictures, has increased 13%. And YouTube ads and the effectiveness of YouTube ads has increased 21%, which, if we think about it, it makes sense on the YouTube side, right? A lot of people are getting into watching more videos. They have a lot more downtime. They're spending time at home. So if you're buying ads, you should definitely consider shifting your budget a little bit more towards the Google Display Network and towards YouTube. And secondly, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, mobile traffic has actually decreased 25%, and it's probably a bit more now. This is from March, but this also kind of makes sense when we look at the current landscape and the current economic conditions, where most of us are spending a lot more time at home, and when we're at home, we tend to spend more time on our computer than we do on our mobile device, right? Because we have our computer handy. So what that means is that if you're producing content and you're buying ad traffic, you should really think about shifting some of that focus to more desktop-oriented content, right? Because a lot of times we optimize our content for mobile because most internet traffic nowadays is for mobile. But we've seen this dramatic shift in the last couple of months, shifting usage onto desktop. So we really need to consider desktop optimization for our content right now, as we're kind of in the throes of this pandemic. Okay, so let me just summarize real quick what we've gone through so far today. So number 1, you want to position your company as an empathetic leader. Number 2, you want to give your customers more value and reassurance. Number three, you want to increase your content volume across all platforms. And number four, you want to take this content volume, but you want to increase the diversity of the content, right? So post different types of content, including videos, pictures, articles, and then also topics, right? You want to post things that are directly related to your business, that are related to life, that are, advice as to, what they can do to make their day-to-day easier. Number five, you want to leverage your product or service for future business. So that includes free trials, repackaging your product to better suit the needs of your customers during the current conditions, etc. And then for ads, and this is partially for content too, we want to consider shifting our ad bidding strategy. So for ads, we want to, if we're using Google Ads, we want to shift towards the Google Display Network and towards our YouTube because both of those have seen an increased volume of traffic. And for content and ads, we also want to shift a little bit more towards desktop. Now, that being said, don't shift everything completely towards desktop because mobile traffic is still outpacing desktop, but we've seen a considerable shift towards desktop. So now I'm going to shift a little bit, and I want to talk about what we're doing right now at Zoho. How have we adapted to the current crisis and the current economic conditions? Well, we're doing a few things. So first of all, of course, we're doing everything mentioned in this presentation. If we weren't, then I suppose that wouldn't be good since we're delivering this presentation. But one of the things, we have a lot of products at Zoho. We have, over 45 different apps. And from an infrastructure standpoint, we were very fortunate that, we use our own products through and through the business. And by using our own products, it means that any transition that happens is a lot easier. We don't have to worry about, is this product worth it? Or are we paying too much for this product or that product? Because they're all in-house, right? These are products that we're going to be continuing to use and to be working on. And they serve as the platform by which we run our business. So moving on, we wanted to continue to focus being a beacon of hope and value in our community. And, we make a very concerted effort to do that in general. But now this crisis sort of made us double down on this, right? We really wanted to focus on, well, what can we do for our community, for our users, our customers, our prospects, and even people who don't know about us, to let them know that, hey, we want to be a leader in the community and show people that there is a light at the end of the tunnel and that there are things you can do right now to better survive this crisis and to make it through. And there's a lot of different ways we do that. And one of the things that we did was we looked at a way to help our current customers who are struggling with cash flow. And I'm going to get into that in a second. And the other thing we did is we gave away a free product suite. And I'll talk about that as well. So, the first three things that I mentioned, we definitely shifted our marketing strategy by, trying to deliver more valuable content, less content that's related to a direct sale at the end, and more content that just helps people get through what's going on right now. We've increased our content volume. We've increased our content diversity, all of the things that I mentioned earlier in this presentation. So the first thing I mentioned was ensuring our business continuity. So we transitioned to work from home globally on March 4th, which, as you can imagine, is not easy. And, there's over 8,000 employees at Zoho and 12 offices spread out internationally. And we managed to go remote in the span of about 3 days. And there's actually a blog article that is posted that details exactly how we did that. So you can kind of find that on our website, or just go ahead and Google, this title, how 8,000 of us at Zoho across 12 different offices went remote in 3 days. And now we say 3 days, and that was the 3 days as, the 3 days started from when we announced, hey, it's going to be work from home now. Now there was some preparation that happened before. I know I was traveling, for work in February, and as soon as I got back, we got a notification that anybody who's been traveling needs to, not return to the office for 2 weeks to make sure that we don't spread anything. And during that time, the measures that Zoho took was that, hey, you know what, we want to get ahead of this, and we're going to transition to work from home. So there was some preparedness. We knew that something was around the bend and that things were changing. And then when the decision was made to go remote, we made it happen, very quickly. And as I mentioned before, we doubled down on our focus to better serving our community and customers at this time with all of the things that I mentioned in this presentation. So I mentioned the cash flow relief to customers. So what is that? So we came up with a program called Zoho ESAP, and that's the Small Business, and then ESAP stands for Emergency Subscription Assistance Program. And really what that is it's helping a lot of our customers get through the current challenging times, right? The current crisis, by allowing them to, basically not have to pay for certain subscriptions right now. And there's several criteria that we have that really make sure that customers who have been with us for a while, that they're not suffering right now, and that Zoho is not going to be the reason that they can't survive this crisis. And so if you're interested, and if you think you want to see if you fall into this category, we have a URL right here, which is zoho.com/ESAP. And the ESAP program is it's similar to, I suppose, a stimulus or a relief program that the government is doing, right? We just want to make sure that our longtime customers have a way to get through the current crisis. And this goes back to the things I was talking about earlier, which is how can we serve our customers and do right by our customers and get them through this so that we both end up better off on the other end. And we really are committed to sort of helping our customers through this, because we really truly believe that by helping our customers get through this and by giving as much as we can right now, that we'll actually receive even more in the future. And now we also decided to provide a product for the moment. And this product we call Zoho Remotely. And Zoho Remotely did not actually exist before February. And this goes back to something I mentioned earlier, which is how can you repackage your products to better suit the needs of your customers now? And so Zoho Remotely is a suite of mobile and web apps that actually help you better communicate and collaborate and be productive in a remote work environment, right? So we recognize that, all of our customers are remote and they're all working from home, and that there is a gap here in that we can actually fill for them, right? And so we packaged together 11 of our apps that, really will support remote work, and we put them together in a product called Zoho Remotely. And as I mentioned, this did not exist before February, but we saw the need and we put it together, and it really evolved from the needs of our community, right? We saw this gap, and we decided that, hey, we have the resources we have the resources internally that we can fill this gap. And so Zoho Remotely, again, going on off of what I said before, we're making it free until July 1st. And, and if you're curious about it, it's at zoho.com/remotely. And again, it's just a way that we can, and it goes back to everything I've talked about in this presentation. What can we give right now to our customers that will help them, that can potentially even serve us better in the future, right? And this is the crux of marketing right now. We want to serve our community and serve our customers in the best way we can, and hopefully be positioned to ourselves and our customers flourish at the other end of this. So that is what Zoho Remotely is helping us hopefully to do. So that's the end of this presentation. I have not checked the questions yet. I will go back and check. I believe we only have a couple of minutes left. You can contact me directly if you want. I know my name's a bit long, but it's Arun.Srinivasan. You can see it here on the screen at zohocorp.com. And if you want to learn more about Zoho, you can go to zoho.com. And specifically, if you're an enterprise company, I would recommend going to zoho.com/enterprise.